Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max and iPhone 17 Pro are Apple's flagship phones this year. I thought we'd talk about the good and the bad. I've been using it for a week, and I'll focus mostly on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, as the iPhone 17 Pro is pretty much identical other than the size, battery life, and overall screen size. So first, let's start off with what's good. Now, the first good thing this year is the display. The display is 3000 nits and stays bright even in hot weather. So previous generations would typically dim the display as it gets hotter outside. I was at a drag strip this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in 90-degree heat and high humidity as it is today at 85-degree heat. And it stays bright even in the hottest of weather. I didn't notice it dim, and I even tried recording Apple ProRes RAW for 4K 60 video, and it stayed bright for a half an hour, so no issues there. The bezels are also noticeably thinner this year. They appear that way, with it giving way to some of the color on the outside. So if you have the orange or blue color, you'll actually see that on the outside and it shows through. Some people will really like the look of this, some may not, but it's definitely a different look and lets you know you have a new phone. Now, the overall design may be a bit controversial this year, but I really like the feel of it while you're holding on to it. The curved edges are super comfortable, and it's one of the best feeling phones in years from Apple. So if you don't like the aluminum frame, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later, it's still something that's really nice to hold, even if you're not using a case. It just feels like it's very comfortable, it's easy to reach side to side, and of course with the Pro Max, my hands are huge, so it's easy to reach side to side here on the display, but overall it just is very comfortable to hold, feels secure with the squared off edges, but very nice with the curved edges over to the display and to the back. Of course, some are concerned about the overall durability and longevity. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if you don't want to have to worry about scratches or anything else, today's sponsor, Casekoo, has you covered with their Titanium Magic Stand 360 and Matter Magic Stand 360. The Titanium Magic Stand has a crystal clear back. The Matte Magic Stand 360 offers a premium nubuck texture frame and semi-transparent matte back. The case is designed to complement the new iPhone 17 Pro colors perfectly and has a snug and precise fit. This is their patented Magic Stand 360 case. Their case originally launched 8 years ago, and now it's better than ever, and features 360 degrees of rotation and is adjustable up to 170 degrees vertically or horizontally to help you find the perfect angle for watching videos, taking photos, or video. You can also use the ring for a secure grip. Casekoo also covers more of the camera plateau to give extra protection for the camera with a semi-covered lens frame, 2.5mm raised edge, and tri-layer corner design protecting both the lens and screen while keeping the frame rock solid under pressure. Casekoo's Magic Stand also features mag prime array technology, giving you 2 times stronger magnetism than standard cases and still supports 25-watt fast wireless charging. The case has an ergonomic anti-slip grip, but maintains a silky smooth finish. If you drop your iPhone, the cases have upgraded 3.0 U-Shock airbags to cushion the fall and keep your new iPhone protected. To check out the latest from Casekoo for yourself, be sure to check out the link in the description below. And I've got an exclusive 15% off Amazon discount for you right now. It's limited time only, so don't miss it. The rear cameras, of course, are similar to what we had last year, but with an upgraded 48-megapixel telephoto zoom lens. It seems like the post-processing on photos and videos seem a little bit different and maybe a little bit better. Of course, with the telephoto zoom lens, we have 4 times and 8 times optical zoom, or really 4 times optical zoom with a crop zoom into the sensor. And it looks pretty good. You can see what it looks like when you're in photos and video. And when you're in video, I think this is where it has the best cameras of any phone out there. Apple's consistently had really great video overall, and the cameras just work really well, as you would expect, and you can get great quality images that are super sharp and have a lot of detail. Of course, we have Pro RAW this year, so we have ProRes RAW that you can find in things such as Final Cut Camera, or you can use the Blackmagic app, but you can use one of these apps with an external drive, plug it into the USB-C port, and now you can record directly to an SSD with super high-quality video that you can change things such as the exposure and white balance after the fact when you're in Final Cut Pro. So some really great options this year. The overall detail of the 4 times and 8 times zoom seem to be about the same as the 16 Pro Max until you zoom way in and get a little extra detail. Other than that, though, most people can't tell the difference. But where you can tell the difference is with the front-facing camera. We have an 18 megapixel sensor in the front camera this year. Apple's calling it a center stage camera, but if we press the button here, we can go to landscape, press it again, go to portrait. This is because it's an open gate sensor or a square sensor that lets us get the whole sensor's use and just change it based on the actual thing we want rather than turning the phone horizontally or vertically. So we have this option now, and we can also record the front and rear camera at the same time. Now, the disadvantage is you can't split these into different files. So if I'm recording here, tap and stop, go into the recording, you'll see that it's up here in the upper right, and you can't split those into two separate files. Maybe we'll get that in a future update, but right now there's no option for it. But you can move it around on the screen as maybe you're reacting to something. Maybe we'll get those separate files in a future software update. Now for recording video with the rear camera, of course we have ultra wide, 1x, 2x, 4 times, and then 8 times zoom. We can zoom into 40 times here, and we've got this little box to help us stabilize it. But overall, it's pretty good. Zoom back out, and you've got the smooth zoom. So it works really well, just like we've had in previous years. And of course, you can change things such as the frame rate and other things after the fact. The next updated thing is the new 5G modem. If we turn off Wi-Fi here, I typically have more bars in the same spot. You'll see currently it's at LTE. I have had a couple odd issues where I've had to turn on airplane mode and then turn it back off, and then it jumps over to LTE and works a little bit differently. But in general, I'm seeing more signal overall based in the same location. So you'll see now we're at 5G with 2 bars. In this specific location, I'd probably be at about 1 bar or so. So it's doing a little bit better. Now it jumped up to 3. I also get faster speeds. So if we go into speed test here, you'll see at this current location, I'm getting about 140 megabits per second down. It's jumping up and down between 80 and 140, and then upload speeds can vary, of course, but we'll give it a second to complete so we can check the upload. And we're getting about 20 megabits per second up in this specific location. It's much better than I would typically get. The same is true with Wi-Fi. Apple's new N1 modem that controls Wi-Fi and Bluetooth seems to work a little bit better for me. So give it a second, we'll see if it connects. There we go. I have full signal strength, and my house is about 100 yards away. Speed overall is really great as well. Now, there is a caveat to this, depending on what you have active here. So if we go back into our battery settings, and then we go to our power mode, if we have adaptive mode on, sometimes it will slow down a little bit. You don't typically notice this while you're using it, but if you are having slowdowns, turn it off, and it feels incredibly smooth and fast. In fact, I would say after using this for a little bit, it feels much more like iOS 26 was designed for the new A19 and A19 Pro processors than it was for anything else, as it's more smooth and just a much better experience in general, going through things, ProMotion, just using it, opening up the camera, going back out, going into music, playing things. It just seems to be what you would expect from iPhone that we've expected for years. So I think that's a great sign. We're seeing incredible benchmarks this year, some up to 10,000 for multi-core or about 3,500 for single core when it's even hot, much higher depending on how you're using it. And it varies, of course, with things going on in the background. But in general, it's very, very good and very fast. Also, going back to battery life is actually pretty good for me this year. Compared to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you'll see currently I'm at 3 hours and 35 minutes of screen active time, 6 hours and 24 minutes of screen idle time, and I've used, well, I'm down to 71%. Very good overall. The day before, a couple days before, I was at 5 hours and 41 minutes, and I used 76% of my battery. So with real-world usage, and the same thing on the 16 Pro Max, I was getting about 3 to maybe 4 hours with over 100% use, having to charge it. So this is a great improvement, and definitely a nice thing to see with over a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, before we talk about PWM, one thing I wanted to mention is the anti-reflective display. It cuts down on reflections quite a bit, but it's not perfect. And you'll see here, if I turn off the display with the 16 Pro Max on the left and the 17 Pro Max on the right, it's definitely an improvement. However, compared to things such as the S25 Ultra, well, it's just night and day difference there. So you can hardly see any reflections in it whatsoever. So it's definitely better than other iPhones, but not as good as some of the competition. Now, when it comes to PWM or pulse width modulation, the way the phone controls brightness, I've talked about this at length in different videos, but basically as you bring the brightness level up, it's flickering the display faster or slower as you bring it down. Your eyes perceive this as brighter or more dim, and this can bother people's eyes, including my own. In order to actually solve this issue and stop things such as nausea and headaches, they have a new option here for display pulse smoothing. Now, this does not turn off PWM entirely, but it sort of smooths it out, and I can show you what that looks like. So if we go to the home screen here, and we'll bring in the 16 Pro Max that we have here, and let me show you at a higher shutter speed so that you can actually see what it looks like. Now, at a very fast shutter speed, we're at 4,000, you can see this. So it's sort of trying to smooth this out a little bit, so there's less of this blinking effect that you'll see in the 16 Pro Max on the left compared to the 17 Pro Max on the right. If I go ahead and turn the setting off, go back home, you should see they're about the same. That line extends. So you see how extended that line is. Go back in, turn it back on, and it should sort of smooth some of that out, hopefully for our eyes to actually feel more comforted by this. Now, it's hard to say if it will feel better long term, but it certainly seems to have helped me, and I've heard from many of you that it seems to be better as well. So let me know what you think of this. It's still not DC dimming, it's not turning it off entirely, but hopefully it helps overall, and they'll continue to do changes with this and hopefully bring it to older phones as well. One other good thing is the speakers this year. Of course, we have our speakers on the bottom and they're reversed this year from last year, but either way, it doesn't really matter when you're using it. And of course, we have a top speaker as well. The overall sound and quality seems to be a little bit better, and also it seems to be a little bit louder. So let's bring in the 16 Pro Max, and then we have the 17 Pro Max here, and then I'll bring in a decibel meter so you can see the difference between both of them. So we'll start with the 16 Pro Max, and then move over to the 17 Pro Max. Of course, you have to hear these in person to appreciate the overall sound difference, but I think the 17 Pro Max sounds a little bit better. The overall high notes seem a little bit clearer and crisper and just better overall, but maybe that's just because it's a new phone compared to something that's been used for a year. Now, when it comes to the bad things, there's not a whole lot to talk about, but one of them is possible long-term durability. One thing is this overall anodized aluminum this year instead of titanium is a softer material. It could dent, it could scratch more easily. I've set this on tile and it still hasn't scratched for me at all, but I know some people are experiencing this. So far, I don't have a single nick on any of the frame of the aluminum or anything like that. It's holding up really well. You'll see around the antenna, nothing else. There's no reason for me to believe this wouldn't be that durable. Now, Apple has also made a comment saying that the scratches that we've seen online around the camera plateau and things like that in the Apple Store are actually material transfer from their charging docks. So that's something they said that could be wiped off and were not scratches at all. But you could definitely scratch it. It's anodized aluminum, so that's something to keep in mind. But of course, you could use a case for that. Now we have Ceramic Shield 2 this year, and I would say it's super durable in general. However, I just dropped it while I was recording this video. Filming the front-facing camera here, let me see if I can turn off the wallpaper here in the always-on display. And now you'll see maybe right here, there's actually a scratch in it. I did that by accident right here. It fell about 4 feet onto a rock and scratched it. Now, the good thing is it didn't crack it, but it scratched it here, and you can feel that. You can't see it when the screen is on, but you definitely can feel it and see it when the screen's off. So just keep that in mind. It's not perfect. It seems to be very durable, but not scratch-proof, of course, as nothing is. Another concern could be the colors this year. Now, it's not really a concern per se, but on the Pro phones, people are disappointed there's no gold or black color. We have orange, we have blue, and we have silver. We have a black color on the iPhone Air, but not this phone. So it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense that way to a lot of people. Maybe they weren't able to get the overall finish to be as durable being black and it would show a lot of scratches. We don't really know, but it's something that we would have liked to see. Maybe a two-tone black and space gray design, something like that. But again, it's something we don't see now. I would love to see sort of mid-year refresh colors with red or something like that, and maybe we'll see that, but at this point we've only got 3 colors. So that's not a huge issue, but definitely something that's different this year. And of course, iOS 26 can be an issue for some. We're seeing a lot of visual bugs. It doesn't feel as refined. And an example is, this is iOS 26.1 beta at this point. If we go to our display and brightness, we still have iOS 18 wallpaper. Why we have that, I'm not sure. They haven't updated it to iOS 26, and this just shows a little bit of the state of iOS 26 early on, like we see every year. It seems Apple didn't finish it entirely. There's odd bugs here and there visually, going into different things, scrolling. You'll see that change here, odd graphical glitches. Now, it does feel fairly stable and reliable, but it definitely has issues all around with visual glitches and more. So that's the good and bad about the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. And if you're wondering if you should pick one up for yourself, well, it is a nice upgrade over the 16 Pro Max after using it for a week. It's noticeably smoother. It definitely does get warm, but dissipates that heat a little bit better. And the usability and just sort of display in bright sunlight is definitely a noticeable improvement. However, if none of those things matter, maybe you're inside all of the time, you're on a charger all the time, and the battery life doesn't matter, well, then it won't be much of an upgrade. But the cameras for me, they're very much the same, and the 48 megapixel telephoto zoom is nice, but it's not that big of a deal. The front-facing camera, however, if you use that for a selfie camera or maybe you're vlogging, that's a huge deal and would be a nice upgrade. So let me know what you think of the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.